Welcome to a bonus episode of the Indoanswers podcast. As we round off 2020, I wanted to take this opportunity to recap some of the moments we've been able to enjoy with our guests that have come on this year. As dull and as dark as 2020 may have been, the kindness of all of our guests to take time off their schedules to share their stories and insights has undoubtedly been extremely heartwarming for me, and I hope hearing from them has provided some solace for all of you too amidst these difficult times. To start off our recap, I want to go to episode 3, where I had the honor of interviewing the voice behind massive hits such as Mungil Totem and Mere Namatu. That is, playback singer Abhay Jodhparkar. While we spoke at length about his musical journey, and you can listen to all that in the full episode, our discussion also ventured into topics that aren't necessarily directly related to music. I first asked him about the concept of destiny, which is something he regularly brings up himself, and asked him how he feels destiny manifests itself into reality in our lives. I found his response fascinating, and hence here is Abhay Jodhparkar talking about his views on the concept of destiny.
Very interesting question. So I keep saying that I'm a destiny's child. For instance, all the things that I had planned for myself never worked out, and something else happens that is completely different or drastically opposite of what I had planned it. So I had realized one thing, that everything is meant to be, and your plans are not God's plans, and the vice versa. So I started believing in this thing called, okay, if I'm meant to do certain things in my lifetime, I'll have to do that, because to maintain that karmic balance, you have to go through certain interactions or transactions with certain souls that probably you owed them in from the previous births or the series of the births that you have lived. So it's just a calculation that the universe does, and the law. I'm a strong believer of law of attraction, and I believe that everything that your subconscious mind also thinks of, makes your reality, and makes it into manifests. So I think reading about all these things and talking about the divine timing and law of attraction, I've come to this agreement or belief that you cannot control anything. All you can control is your thoughts. So what you're thinking is ultimately is going to matter the most. So I've started rejoicing living in the present, which is the only reality that there is. So if you're trying to plan something, if you're trying to, let's say, have a goal that, okay, I have to do this, then that's something which might not be meant for you. So rather than making those plans, how about going with the flow of the universe and just, enjoying those plans which were probably meant for you? Of course, you can't be delusional. You can't be, sitting at home all the time, and you can't be, living like a saint wherein, okay, I don't know anything to do. I'm just going to meditate and, just, go with it. You can't do that. But what I'm trying to say is that whatever you can control, you can, probably, plan it out and set short-term goals for yourself, but not have long-term goals or, different attributes wherein you just decide for yourself that, okay, this is something which I want to do, or this is something which is going to be good for me. You can never plan these things out, because I've realized no matter how much you plan, what has to happen will happen. I mean, look at 2020 for that matter. I mean, all our plans, got screwed royally, and, and nobody can take charge and, even try to change these things, because everything is under control by a supreme power called universe, and universe is just doing its job by cleansing, whatever damage we have caused into the nature, Mother Earth, and it's just backlashing and backfiring. So I think, and I'm also a strong believer of karma, and I believe that, okay, whatever we are going through, probably we have asked for it, or probably we deserved it. So I don't know. I'm like, it's just a mixture of all these things. But yeah, I've realized that, okay, maybe destiny is, plays its role. But how I would put it also is that you can work on your, skills, your qualities, whatever you think you're born with, or you can, acquire a quality by reading or by, acquiring whatever you want to, and brush it up, and then prepare yourself until you're 18 years old, and then let nature do its job and take you where you're probably meant to be. So when your preparation meets the opportunity, that's what decides your fate, and your fate is ultimately your destiny. So I think if you're prepared at the right time, at the right opportunity, then you end up acquiring it, and It's all about how you perform in that moment. So instead of focusing about all the other unnecessary things that you would rather control, it's best to let it go and just thinking and enjoy the present moment. So I guess that's a big fat answer to your question.
This conversation ended up transitioning into one about how to stay true to oneself and the ways in which perhaps us humans are tempted into believing a false narrative about ourselves. Let's listen to what Abe had to say regarding this matter.
So I think that's the thing. When you let someone else dictate what is good for you or what is probably the best for you, that's when you start becoming fake. So it's never good to compare yourself or set someone else as your idol or your inspiration. And of course, you can learn things, but don't assume that that's the ultimate goal that you have to probably achieve. You might have a different journey. You might like to showcase different things. So never treat social media as something that is the ultimate truth or gospel, target that you need to have. So yeah, that's where the fakeness comes from, wherein we have the society has created so much of illusion between what's good for you, what's not for you, and they are so judgy about things. And if you do a certain thing, you are normal apparently, and if you follow the herd, if you follow the norm, that's when you fit into that into that norm, which is now. But who decides what's normal or what's good for you? Which is why the entire the concept of copying someone or fitting into the norm is just so flawed. The system itself is flawed. So which is why I personally detest that there's nothing called as absolutely right or wrong. You can decide for yourself what's good for you as long as it doesn't harm anyone. And which is why you need not succumb to your social expectations or your social norms. You can set your own norms, and it's absolutely fine if it makes you happy.
So that was Abhay Jodhparkar dropping words of wisdom just now. And next, I want to head to episode 4, where I spoke with the incredible Ashwin Vinayakamurthy, a music director who has worked with some of the nation's top artists, such as Sid Sriram, Chinmay, among many others. One of the most common assertions made with regards to modern music in general, at least based on what I've heard, is that music today isn't the same as it used to be, with a strong negative undertone behind that statement, implying that music today is not as good as music of the past. My conversation with Ashwin Vinayakamurthy happened to stumble upon this topic, and I found what he had to say here regarding the matter to be really interesting. So let's now hear what he says with regards to the old music versus new music debate.
I have a very similar story about that with A.R. Rahman songs, but not because I forgot to load, but because it was back in the day. We used to go for school trips to Kerala, Ooty, and Munnar. I had a Discman with me, and I had one disc with me, which was Silin or Kadal. So for the next week, I could only listen to that one disc on repeat. I think that why you enjoy the songs that much also is because you spend so much time with the song. That's primarily the reason why people enjoyed older songs more than they enjoy newer songs. Because if you don't like a song, you have the option to skip. Back then, you couldn't skip. I had to wait an entire song to kind of go to the next song. So you learn to adjust and go with the flow more than pick and choose. People always ask me, music isn't the same from back then to now, but I disagree profusely, because you gave it a lot more time to grow on to you back then. Now you just don't. I myself don't. Even the biggest of stars, I'm a huge fan of Charlie Puth, but I nitpick on his biggest hits, saying I like 2 of these, I don't like 3 of those. Whereas if I had given them the equal amount of importance and attention of the songs that I like, I would still end up listening to them, liking them in the process.
Next, I want to head to the very first episode of the podcast, where I had a chat with composer Sanjay, an independent artist from Chennai. What I find really fascinating about him and his music is that his music is very much within the genre of semi-classical music, but yet he himself has never received any sort of formal classical training. Usually with classical artists, or any artist whose art is heavily influenced by Carnatic or Hindustani music, they would have at least some history of formal training, but this was not the case for Sanjay here. I asked him about this, and here was his response.
Actually, I didn't have a very formal classes in Carnatic. I didn't have a formal classes. But, coming from a South Indian, home, like a family, coming from a South Indian family, like we always had this habit of playing Carnatic songs in home from my childhood. Like I think so I have heard more of Carnatic songs than a film songs. Like I would tell that, because in my home, like even today, like we start the day with MS Subbulakshmi and the songs, and it constantly plays in the radio, or it constantly plays in TV or some or the other medium. So from my childhood, it was always like that. It was I have heard tons and tons of Carnatic music songs from my childhood. In my childhood, I was not actually that interested in Carnatic actually till my probably till my 6th or 7th. My sister used to go to Carnatic classes. Whenever she sings, I used to mock her. Like I used to pull her leg, doing the signs which they do in Carnatic singing. Then what happened, like you get like something has to spark in you to go into that. And fortunately I listened to MS Subbulakshmi or GN Balasubramaniam, GNB, and those legends. I started listening to them, and I found, okay, this is something else. I was thinking like we must start listening to it. Then automatically I started when there is a seeking, there is a teacher in front of you. That's what I believe in. When you seek something, a teacher will appear in front of you. So my teacher was just internet. So like once I started getting internet in my home, I started listening to a lot of Carnatic music from MS Subbulakshmi, GNB, Maharajapuram Santanam, or Chemmangudi, or like all these legends. The way they sing and the musicianship they had is phenomenal, like tremendous. Like so after a point of time, one part of me got involved into that, probably in my creativity. I don't really sit with any rag and compose. Like a tune which comes to me, it comes to me in a Carnatic way. I don't know how it is seriously. And and one important thing is, in my family, my grandfather's family, like my grandfather's sisters, they were all amazing singing artists. They were Carnatic musicians, and my grandfather used to be with GNB.
Oh, wow.
So so maybe those genes have come like I don't know, like probably that's why I'm a little more inclined towards Carnatic. And the major reason is, as I told you, from my childhood, I've always listened to Carnatic songs more than any kind of genres. Like maybe if I listen to 50 Carnatic songs, I would have listened to 4 film songs. This should be the ratio. That's how it is in my home. So yeah.
The quality of music he produces within the classical realm, particularly given that he doesn't have formal classical training, is quite incredible. But yet it all makes sense when we hear him say that where there's a seeking, there's a teacher. And it is clear that he has taken a conscious effort to learn more and more about classical music, despite never having a formal teacher per se. Speaking of teaching, that's the topic we're going to hear about next, as we head to episode 5. In episode 5, I spoke with playback singer Darshana Katie, who is one of the most accomplished singers of the modern era, having sung for composers like Rahman sir, Ilaiyaraaja sir, Haris Jayaraj, among many others. We talked about all sorts of fascinating topics, and I was stuck between which segment to include for this compilation. I was initially going to include the segment where she talked about her experience recording the incredible Maafi Mushkil from the movie Mom, but I ultimately opted for the segment where she talks about her experiences as a vocal teacher, as she now teaches Carnatic music to young students in the US. Have a listen to what she had to say regarding the matter.
My mom's a teacher. She's not a music teacher, but she's been a school teacher ever since I could remember. And she's been an HOD of art department. And so I've seen many parents who would come home and talk to her about their kid and wanting their child to, be on stage, school shows, or why don't you select, my child's painting is so good, you should put it on the wall, and those kind of queries. I've also seen how beautifully she managed answering them. She would never say a no, but she would know what to say and how to say it to a parent. And I think because of that, she has never gone and asked my music teacher, when will Darshana be on stage? Or, because she's a teacher herself.
Yeah.
They just trusted the teacher. They or any entity teaching nale adu you should trust the teacher, and for that 1 hour it's not your child, it is the teacher's student. It's a time for the bond to be created, and it's a lot more. It's not just sarali varse, janda varse. It's a lot more. I don't have too many students that I teach. I have a very, very, very few students, and all of them are chintus. Like literally, the height of my So, students come in with a lot of expectations, and living in Chicago, it's even more so because this is the way they're trying to inject culture into their child.
Yeah.
Right? It's you wouldn't find this kind of pressure in India. I don't know. I might be wrong, but I find that kids are more under pressure over here because they are in turn. They need to go perform every 6 months in some Sabha Kacheri or Kovil Kacheri, or somebody knows somebody who's going to, have a big singer as a guest. Anga pay en koyanda padanum. So when that is your goal, you forget Sarigama Padanisa வந்து ஸ்ருதியில பாடுறதா, breath control இருக்கா, அக்காரம் சரியா வருதா, third speedலயும் அந்த அக்காரம் சரியா வருதா. There are multiple. They don't care. So once Sarali Varse is done, Kirtanam epo solli kodukka poren. I'm like
0 to 100.
0 to 100. There have been many times where I worked on a Varnam with a kid. This happened very recently. It's so strange that you asked me this question. Very recently, there was a child and the parent decided to discontinue. And sadly, but with a heavy heart, I was okay to let go of that kid because I saw that kid in a lot of pressure. So the teacher, the mother comes and tells, Pallavi eduthachu, Anupallavi eduthachu, why don't you start the Sahityam? Okay, but Pallavi, Anupallavi, Muktai Swaram, first speed varno, second speed varno. If the child is really good, Tishram padano. If the child is really, really good, let's see how the child does in fourth speed. Yes, I will teach the Sahityam, but Varnam is no matter what you do, Varnam is the foundation. Like it's like you cannot deny it. I have started going for music classes again, Carnatic music. And I've started learning again. And this is as recent as a year back I started. And the teacher said, I know you've finished Varnam, but I think we'll have to work on your Sarali Varse, Janda Varse. Every class, 20 minutes at the party to dama aduthathu po mudiyu. Now, I cannot tell her, hey, you know what? I've sung for so-and-so. I have all these accomplishments. So you start Varnam straight. I cannot say that. Because conditioning. I've not had my mom do it, and I've not seen my mother do it. It doesn't come to me automatically. Because I see other parents do it, I know how, it's such an awkward space to be in. You don't know how to respond to it. So சொன்னது கேட்கணும், because teacher knows more than you. She's listening to you. How you sound inside your head is so different from how other people. This is the reality. Number inside your head, your voice sounds different. When you hear it, it's different. So trust the teacher. அது எனக்கு நடக்கல. And I tried explaining, but she was like, no, I think you need to move forward. So that's when parents start deciding what the format of the class should be, is when it starts getting a little difficult. Because not everyone can finish Sarali Varse in 6 months. Some kids take 8 months. And it's okay. And there are other kids who are so intrigued by, oh, Melakatta Ragam ivlo iruke. How would this sound in Shankarabharanam? How would this sound in Pantuvarali? Now, when a child is asking that question, I don't see it as, oh, it's not in portion, you cannot ask this. To me, I see it as a very inquisitive child. இது கேட்கறதே, அப்போ இந்த மார்க்கும் அந்த மார்க்கும் நம்ம டிஃபரன்ஸ் சொல்லணுமே, right? But what the parent is doing is, எனக்கு 45 minutes time. Your thing was to teach Sarali Varse. Why aren't you? Why are you doing other things? Like, it's a very black and white situation that they want to treat. Sometimes it's okay to incorporate colors. It's okay for the child to ask questions and dab a little bit, and just trust the teacher in this process. And it's not just for music enkita kattukrava mattum na sollala. In any form of art, it's a way for it's literally your brain branching out and exploring. And especially with young minds, they have so many questions. They don't, and living outside of India, you're already not part of that culture. You don't know why certain things are celebrated and certain things are not celebrated, right? So a lot of confusions இருக்கும் ஒரு குழந்தைக்கு. அது வந்து திடீர்னு, like இங்க யூஎஸ்ல வந்து it's not a culture to showcase your talent when someone comes home. நீ பாடி காமி பாப்போம், டான்ஸ் ஆடி காமி பாப்போம் is a very common thing in India. Yeah. But in the US, it's not. So when the child is not asked to do other things, but வா வந்து பாடி காமி பாப்போம், and it's like, why should I? You don't ask me to do other things. Why do you ask me to do this? So there's always a conflict. And adu vandu the parent, I think parents have to consciously make an effort to trust the teacher and then move forward.
As we head towards the last few highlights, I'd like to next go to episode 6, where I spoke with the extraordinary multi-instrumentalist, composer, and producer Prashant Srinivas. We were speaking about a song of his titled Madam, which is a really, really interesting sort of dark and hypnotic track featuring the rapper MC Heem. Prashant had said once previously that, quote, evil is swag when discussing this song, and I wanted to hear more about what exactly he meant by that. Let's hear what he had to say about his assertion that evil is swag.
So evil is swag. Evil is swag, because if you sort of think about your favorite evil characters that you know all through in like either comic books or in movies or even in Tamil, actually, like I'm like a huge fan of the early like the early Rajinikanth films, right? Like the old Rajinikanth films in which he is like the evil character, right? And I found that he is he has like himself said that he enjoys playing evil characters as compared to the happy heroes that he sort of ends up playing. And that's also because of his swag element, that you sort of enjoy his evil roles a lot. Like, sort of like he does them so well that and playing like the hero is overdone. I mean, fine, you'll like do like all the right things at the right time and be Superman all the time and save the world, but I mean, I think that evil sort of like evil has to be embraced is what the theme of that song was. So I just thought that darkness is equally important as the other side. So I think if you have to show it, and if you have to show it effectively, it helps to stop making the track feel like it is dark and empty inside and everything is over. It helps if it starts to feel almost swaggy, stylish, and happy evil, as compared to starting to feel like, oh, he's gonna end us all, as compared to he's gonna end us all. Wow. Right? So then it's like a whole different kind of way of trying to approach it. Is why I said evil is swag. And I obviously Him was awesome at that. I mean, like Him was so effective in sort of talking about evil in that form. So hence I felt it was good. Ekant is the most awesome example of that. Like he sort of acts out the evil parts extremely well. If you take any of the dark themes, even Voldemort is not as scary to me as Darth Vader, because Darth Vader has swag, and in that sense, yeah, just like take all your like evil characters from all the films. Joker, right? Like he had swag. Yeah, just all evil characters have to have. I mean, no, like the icing on the cake of every evil theme is swag, is what I think I would say at the end.
Next, I'd like to head to our most recent episode, which featured independent singer-songwriter Drishti Tandel. She's truly a unique artist, as her work is all in Japanese, despite being an Indian artist. I wanted to hear about her perspective on the Indian independent scene in general, particularly given that she was trying to break into the industry as a very different type of artist compared to other artists in the Indian industry. She once posted on Twitter that, quote, "People support meme pages more than actual struggling musicians." Like, what? Which led me to ask her about her opinion on the state of the independent industry. This is what she had to say.
Well, since everything has been happening online for the past year, it's obviously been really difficult because music is something that needs engagement, and people need to have an audience, and the audience has to be, provided with this pleasure of listening to music and engaging with the artist. And I think doing live shows is super important, which I haven't gotten the chance to do much during my KM journey till now. And live performing is something that I feel will push the artist to some other level, or like, will bring them more approach, or more reach to the artist, and the audience will definitely be able to connect with someone they're seeing in person, rather than online. And well, I've always been quite shy to post photos of myself online, or things of that sort, or a video or something like that. So that is also something that people like, and people want to watch somebody perform online, if it may be. But I feel like if it's not something I'm comfortable with, then I wouldn't want to do that. So I feel like I'd rather prefer being true to what I want to do, and not display things that I don't want to. So that was another reason for me to make lyric videos and have this other sort of engagement for the audience. But definitely coming back to the tweet, when I say that meme pages get more support, the generation that we are in right now is super, I don't know. It's like everyone uses humor to cope with everything, and I've come across so many meme pages that have so many followers, and like all of that sort, and it's difficult for an artist to get their stuff out as it is, and being this online kind of generation now, it's kind of pushed artists to develop a different approach towards like releasing their music. and I feel like that's still in the works for everyone, and we're still trying to find different ways to engage online um, and try to have it more intriguing or have it more interesting than a meme perhaps.
Finally, I'd like to end this episode by going back to episode 2, where my guest was independent composer Edwin Lewis, known for tracks like Adiye Kutti Devade and Talapati Raid. I started this podcast out of my love for music, and I felt that this portion from the podcast beautifully expressed Edwin's innate and innocent love for music, and I felt that it would be apt to end this compilation with this. I generally end my podcasts by asking my guests songs that are on their playlist nowadays, and Edwin had brought up Kun Fayakun from the film Rockstar. He then went on talking about how much of an impact this form of music has on him on an emotional level. Have a listen to what he had to say regarding the sort of impact that song and Sufi music in general has on him.
I listen to Kun Fayakun like 100 times a day because I love that song. Whenever I feel depressed or something, I just sit peacefully, off all the lights in my room, and I will listen to that song 1,000 times. It will make me good more and more.
Just one last thing,
Yes.
because you mentioned Kun Fayakun and you went to KM where there's a Sufi department, were you ever involved with
Of course,
the Sufi group?
no, I never involved in it because I wanted to pursue audience steering. So I used to stare at the people who sing on Kavali room. There's a Kavali room on the entrance itself of the KM. There's a dome, a private dome with all the carpets and the tabela, and you have to enter room. There is some few restrictions. You have to wear white and white, and because the Kavali is basically a spiritual music, Sufism. So when there is a launch on the entrance, so I sit there and I watch all of them. I've cried several times listening to their voices. You know, they pray. Sometimes they record videos. Sometimes they do the dua. It is such a beautiful feeling. There is nothing called religion in music. Music is always universal, and that is the only thing I felt. I really felt proud that I'm in the right place at the right time. I think music is taking me somewhere else day by day. I'm getting more addictive, even more every day, day by day. I'm learning new things, and yes, in a way, it helps me a lot. I usually listen to a lot of spiritual music. Most importantly, Rahman sir's music.
This is what it all comes down to, a deep love for music. And on that note, I'd like to conclude this bonus episode. Thank you so much to everyone that has tuned in for any of the episodes so far. Your support is what keeps all of the content here at the Indoanswers going. Please do spread the word about any of the articles, podcasts, and videos here with anybody else that may be interested. And I can assure you that there's more to come in 2021. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time next year.